Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project. We're a charity that helps people facing the end of their lives to write and record their own original songs. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can check out our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk, and you can also follow us on the various social media channels that will be tagged in this podcast. The podcast features songwriters, and we have a chat about songwriting and bereavement. They share with us one of their songs. We talk a little bit about how they wrote that. They share with us a songwriting tip, and they also share a song that's meaningful to them in some way related to bereavement. This episode features Jon Gomm, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today I'm here with Jon Gomm. Thanks for joining me, Jon.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to talking to you. So if you've seen or listened to these podcasts before, we do them in three sections. First, we're going to have one of my guest songs. We're going to talk a little bit about how they wrote that. Then section 2, Jon's going to share with us a songwriting tip. Might be useful for the songwriters. And then section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Jon in some way relating to bereavement. So I'll ask you to introduce your song for us, please, Jon.
Okay, so this is my new single. It's called Cocoon. It's for my daughter. I wrote it for my daughter.
Wrap up her limbs so she can lie, spinning silk around her. Watch her inhaling fireflies, illuminate her from inside. Got to cocoon her, construct a new womb for her, but will I teach her my fear if I try to protect her? Got to cocoon her, construct a new womb for her. Will I teach her my fears if I try to protect her? Unfurl her wings so she can dry, open to the sun. I cannot bear to watch her fly, reduce my singing to a sigh. Got to cocoon her, construct a new womb for her, but will I teach her my fears if I try to protect her? Got to cocoon her, construct a new womb for her. Will I teach her my fears if I try to protect her.
Okay, fantastic. So that was Cocoon by Jon Gomm. Yeah, it's a beautiful and really powerful song, John. I was wondering, I thought it was a parent-to-child song, listening
Yeah,
to it.
yeah. It's I don't know how direct that is or how obvious it is, but yeah. For me, becoming a parent was very intense emotionally. I guess it is for everybody, but I just had I have my own issues that I then had to kind of deal with in a different way and confront in a different way. So yeah, I wrote a song about it, but it's kind of about me. You know, I wrote it for my daughter, but I wrote it about being a parent. It's about my reaction to being a parent. So it's not really fair to say that's her song. It's not. It's quite another one that's actually about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
How
yeah,
old's your daughter?
she's now just turned 4.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, and it's funny. So when I first heard the song a couple of weeks ago, then that wasn't my immediate impression of what it was about. But it was only recently having discussions with other people about that issue of parenting. Because the line in it about if I teaching her your fears.
Yeah.
And I've had a conversation just the other day with someone about parenting and like reflecting on what it was like for me growing up, and my parents letting me take quite a lot of risks, and how much I appreciate that now, but how hard that must be for a parent to let your child do things that are potentially dangerous, whether it's going to hurt themselves, but that they learn from that.
For me, that's amplified because I have mental health issues of my own. So like my mum was really risk averse, and I don't know, I've always just basically struggled with anxiety since I was a kid. So when you have that, I actually have bipolar disorder as well. So it's like I'm not very good at assessing risk. Well, I say I'm not very good. I don't know how to assess risk, so I can't really do it. And sometimes I'll think there's no risk when there is some, and sometimes I'll think it's life-threatening when it's completely harmless. So it's really hard for me to do it. So my instinct with being a parent is to completely cocoon, hence the title of the song, the child, because it's my responsibility to. I mean, your first job as a parent or a carer of any kind is to keep your charge alive. Do you know what I mean? And she's 4, so she's still here. So, but that weighs very heavily upon you, and when you're trying therefore to protect them from harm and risk all the time, but then you're desperately worried about passing on your own fear and your own anxiety to your child, and it's really, really hard. And I think it's hard for any parent, and I think sometimes if you've got your own specific issues, and it's something that's interesting from a songwriting point of view, if you've got your own issues in life, and if it's a health thing, it's something that's pervasive and it's in your life all the time, then it's worth thinking about how that experience, which seems like it's unique to you, actually isn't. It's just an amplification of what everybody experiences all the time. So everybody experiences, anxiety, for example, in the case of that song, everyone experiences worry and fear. If you experience that in an amplified way, then you can write about that and everybody will be able to understand it. It's not like it's unique to you, it's just that it's amplified for you. That's what people think artists are anyway. They think that anybody who's an artist is sensitive. In other words, they feel things stronger and more powerfully. In my case, I definitely do. But I don't think that makes you a good or bad artist, but that's what you're kind of doing, is trying to be like an amplifier for human experience,
Yeah. And yeah, I think a lot of artists, that's what they're really good at, is amplifying those everyday situations. But if you don't need to amplify them in your own life already, it takes a step out for you, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What was it like in terms of writing it? Was it all stuff that you had been thinking about prior to writing it, or did you start the song and it kind of reveal things to yourself as you were writing it?
I think in the case of that one, I probably thought about it a lot, and then there was probably a moment. There's specific lyrics in the song which are to do with swaddling. So it starts off. The first line is "Wrap up her limbs so she can lie, spinning silk around her," and that's literally, it's a description of an insect cocooning itself or whatever. But when you've got a baby, you do have to wrap it up, and there is a swaddling thing that some parents do where you actually wrap up the arms and legs to stop the baby from moving, which we didn't actually do, but it's the thing. So it's kind of a literal description, and I really like that. Sorry, I'm really conscious that we're talking about songwriting, so my mind is going on to that. But I really like the way that if you take a metaphor and cast it across an entire song. So in the case of that song, the metaphor is, an insect in a cocoon is the metaphor for the entire song. Then you can write literally about that. You can write, about wrapping up limbs, swaddling. You can write something very, very literal that's just a description of an action, but it takes on new meaning. It takes on a dual meaning, and that's something that I think is satisfying and means that the words penetrate in a different way. I mean, that's what poets and lyricists do all the time. So it's metaphor, but people know what metaphor is. But I think when you actually apply it to an entire work, maybe that's different to what people think of as metaphor. Sometimes when somebody's learning how to write songs or write words, they think a metaphor is, I can't think of one now. It's really embarrassing. The clouds were so dark that it felt like it was nighttime. So that's a metaphor where you're saying, oh, it's the daytime, but it's dark. So I'm going to say the clouds have made it seem like it's nighttime. So, and then you continue writing about whatever you're writing about, and that's all a metaphor is. It's a way of just describing something in a fancy way for a moment, and then you move on. But it's not really. It's a prisms through which you can look at everything. So you can say, oh, isn't having a child a bit like you've got to keep them in a cocoon, and then hopefully they burst out as a butterfly or whatever. But you don't just say that. You then actually think about having a parent and all aspects of having a parent, of being a parent, as if it's that. And that's how you write, and that's how you apply, that idea. And then after that, the song will kind of write itself in a way, because anything you write is instantly one layer removed from your subject, which makes it like people have to unravel it. So sorry, I have one more thought to add. I'm really terrible interviewee.
Yeah, no, it's great. Sounds all really interesting.
So what I love about particular kinds of lyrics and poetry is that there's some kind of writing which is very literal, so it's very clear and people just write about the thing they're writing about, and I don't like that so much. But then there's the other kind of writing where it's so opaque that you've got no idea what it's about or if it's about anything, and sometimes I find that unsatisfying. Tom York does that a lot, and I love Tom York, but his words, they wash over you in their kind of meaninglessness, and I'm sure they mean something, and this is not true of all of his songs, obviously, but a lot of his songs, they're beautiful words and it sounds beautiful and it kind of feels very beautiful to listen to, but if somebody said, what's that about, you would have no fucking idea what the song is actually about. And that's another way of writing lyrics. But the way that I like to do it is the middle, so everything is translucent, so it's not completely opaque and mysterious, and you're not Coleridge, you're not the poet Coleridge who wrote like in Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, and it's like, wow, that's so powerful and mystical, but what the fuck is it about? No idea. Or you're not like John Lennon writing Come Together. He went on Shoe Shine, he got Toe Jam Football. You know, what is that? I've got no idea. But also you're not somebody writing something very literal where you're not, what's my favorite one? I forgot what it's called. Is it called Email Love? So it's a Britney Spears song, and it's about falling in love via email, and it's called Email Love, and it's about writing an email and saying I love you in an email. So it's there's no layers.
Yeah.
You know? There's no layers. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's my favorite example of the most incredibly literal song ever. But I like to be somewhere in the middle where, okay, it's not immediately obvious what the song's about. It's not immediately obvious, but anybody probably can figure it out pretty quickly. So there's a little puzzle, because it's the action of solving that puzzle, which is what enables the words to access somebody's emotions, rather than just be either I don't understand at all, or it's really obvious and it's just some words that I've heard. This way, the action of I think it's like the reason that we wrap birthday presents or Christmas presents. It's just the action of unwrapping it is the difference between it being a purchase, an object, or a gift. You know, it's like the action. I think that's I just want to create that translucency, so somebody has to unwrap it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay.
I always thought of it like I like songs that give you more the more you listen to them. You know, like those really literal examples. Something that's like you listen to that and you're like, all right, I understand that. And I think of it in two levels. Like, you know, there's the music level. So like some songs you get more musically out of them every time you listen to them, like more complex to figure out what they're doing or things like that. And some songs like, right, they use these chords. This is what the song's about. I feel like I understand that song now. And other songs where, like say you take more listens to it and you're like, I wonder if that's what this is about, or they can throw you in different directions. And I think sometimes like different artists, like some artists are quite mysterious in what they're writing about, but you know that there's something that, you know, if you listen to a lot of them, you know, like this song, I'm not sure what it's about now, but I know they know what it's about. I know it's not just random words. So it's going to be worth my time to figure out what it's about. Yeah. Or to figure out what it means to me now.
Writers do both at once. The greatest writers do both at once. So they write about something in a really literal way, but it's absolutely filled with kind of semi-hidden meaning, you know. And that's an incredible level of writing, which, to be honest, I don't think you can explain how to do that. I can't. If I've ever managed it, I'm very lucky, but I'm not aware of it. There's a level that, you know, some people can do everything at the same time, but
and when you were talking about metaphor as well, there's something so I'm a huge fan of metaphor as well, and like you said, those kind of using a metaphor for a whole song and the different directions you go in there, and I haven't heard it described, but someone described it as when you're writing that way, you're writing in the key of whatever the metaphor is. Cool. Which I really like describing it that way. So you're playing a musical key, you play in that key, so those notes will work with that key. But if you're writing, like, so if you're writing in the key of Cocoons, then anything to do with Cocoons
That's really
works.
Nice. I like it,
Yeah. And I found, like, when I've done it before, I enjoy then researching a subject. If I'm writing, so if I was writing a song about cocoons, I'm like, right, well, what's about cocoons? Then you find out all that language about swaddling, and like, oh yeah, that's
interesting. I don't know if I've ever done that, where I've actually gone and researched the topic. It'd be things that I would know about already and have an interest in already. So I'm always interested in nature and science. So those tend to be metaphors that I use for things. So I don't think I've ever done that and actually gone and done the research, but I would quite like to now.
It's quite fun. I wrote a song called Rust years ago, and it was a trust you like rust. So it was like you're trusting someone to ruin something basically over time. But then I thought, like, well, what do I actually know about Rust? So I remember spending ages reading up about Rust and all the different things about it, and it was really good fun.
Fascinating. But no, actually, I would quite like to.
yeah, interesting subject. I was just kind of like, that's an interesting phrase. I wonder how that would fit into a song.
Yeah, it's like you will come up with interesting phrases. Yeah, definitely, and words. Like I just thought of, as you said that, I was thinking, you know, there's things that don't rust. Like that are called stainless, and stainless is suddenly like stainless. That's such an interesting way of describing something. You said like rust is like aging up, like something that decays over time, it breaks down over time. And then if something is unable to do that, or is somehow like superpowered, protected from do that, we call it stainless steel. It's stainless, which is like a horrible word in some ways, but actually it's also beautiful, the idea of something being pure and unsulliable by time.
Yeah, rust proof.
So yeah, I can totally see that now.
Yeah.
I want to write a song about rust.
It's a good topic. I'd recommend it. I want to comment on obviously, Jon, you have a very distinctive, impressive guitar playing style.
Okay, yeah, I do.
So I was wanting to ask you a bit about that. I was wondering how you got into that kind of style of play and how it's developed over time, and how that works in your writing process.
Okay, so I do lots of crazy stuff on the guitar. So if I'm so often I'll tune the guitar weird to start with. So right now I'm in Dadgad, which is never a great tuning, but for me, I do use it sometimes. But so being in an open tuning like that, it changes the way that you can use your guitar. So you can use a lot more open strings and stuff. So you're not so much thinking about chords that you have to hold, because the guitar on its own kind of sounds pretty. So often you can just add things underneath. So for example, in this tuning, I could play so my chord, I can just play with one finger really. And that would technically be like E minor, I think. And then that would be like some kind of A and some kind of G chord. So they're not like radical chords. And then because I'm doing that, my hand is a lot more free to do different things. So then I'll do things like drumming on the guitar. So I can get drum beats and stuff. So I've got bass lines and different sounds coming out of the guitar. So it sounds a lot more full and a lot more like there's different timbres, different pitches and different textures. So it's way more full to me than just strumming or finger picking a chord. And it's not harder. I mean, it's harder to learn, I guess. It's something new you've got to learn. But like you can see what I was playing there was all with one finger on one hand. So if somebody's thinking, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do that kind of technique, actually it's not that hard. And it's definitely a learning curve at first, but then after a while it's not that tricky. And if you're the kind of guitar player where you find the fiddly bits really hard, your fingers aren't really the most nimble, then actually this kind of playing might be for you, because a lot of it is quite physical and not so fiddly. I guess I got into it through, well, for everything I've just said about not being into fiddly guitar playing, I am. So I've always been really schooled and wanted to learn lots of complex technique and stuff on guitar. So every time I've heard like a new technique, I've always wanted to steal it and incorporate it into my playing. So in terms of, in the song Cocoon that we just saw, there's tuning tricks. There's all these fun tuning tricks that you can do. So that's like banjo technique. The first guitarist that I saw do that is a guy called Adrian Legg, who does so much retuning stuff on his guitar. So I incorporated that. And then the percussion stuff that I do, the first guy that I ever heard do that was a blues guitarist called Bob Brosman back in the day. But yeah, so there's many kind of modern guitarists as well. So there was one particular guitarist called Michael Hedges, who everybody should listen to at least once. And he has an album called Aerial Boundaries, which is probably the one that people class as the seminal album, and it's probably my favorite, I don't know. But he uses lots of different tunings for every song, and uses incredible techniques, and his were really complex techniques, and some percussion and tapping and things on acoustic guitar. And he really revolutionized the acoustic guitar. So I've stolen a lot of his techniques, the ones I can do. And yeah, in terms of writing, the way that I always approach it is I write as much of the song as possible away from the guitar.
Okay.
Before I then pick up the guitar. And I always recommend that people do that. The reason I do it is because I do all the flashy guitar playing stuff. If I started with that, then I worry that my pieces would sound like exercises or like flashy guitar demonstrations, which I don't want. So I generally will write the song first and then bring it to the guitar, and then I can do whatever I want on the guitar and get away with it, really, I hope. So, but I would always recommend that people try to do that, try to write as much as they can away from the guitar. And I don't tend to write down musical notation or anything. I do that very occasionally, but I record a lot. So I have like hundreds of little videos on my phone, and most of my songs will start with lyrics, and I'll have a few melodies knocking about that I might want to use, but mostly they'll start with lyrics, and then then I'll think about melody. Then before I pick up the guitar, I'll think about what I want the overall kind of sound to be, and a good way to think of that is in genres for me. So if I've got a song written, I'll then think, like, what genre of music do I want this to be? That sounds pretty weird to do that. It's like, okay, am I gonna suddenly, be like a country guy or, a metal guy or whatever? But you can do that for any kind of style of music that you like. But you could even just think of an artist, and I do that sometimes. It's like, who would I love to hear playing this song? Now I've written it, I would love to hear Jeff Buckley playing this song. And you can aim as high as you want, Jeff Buckley, great. I'm probably not going to get there, but I can aim for that. So then when I pick up the guitar and I can start to think about it, like, how am I going to arrange this on the guitar? So arranging music, for people who don't know, is different to composition. It's when basically the melody's already written, and the words, if they're already written, if there are some words are already written, and there may be other things, but basically if you've got words and a melody, that's kind of it. That's your main bulk of your writing. And then the arrangement is, okay, so what's the music going to sound like that goes with this? So in the case of me as a solo guitarist, I'm thinking, what am I going to play on the guitar while I sing this song? And that's a really good way of approaching writing, which is very different to the way that most people write songs on the guitar, which is like, okay, I'm just going to play some chords and sing along with those and see what comes out. And there's two problems with that, which is, one, you're going to not have anything that exciting going on the guitar, and two, what you've written in terms of a melody is being guided by what you play. So you're not actually composing it freely with your imagination. So anyway, that's the answer.
Yeah, that's really
It was very, very long. All my answers are long. You can just edit them down.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, John. Really good. Yeah, I really like the that way of doing it. And yeah, it must be interesting having, like, I feel like you've got a pretty deep trick bag for things you can do when you're doing that arrangement then. And I like that, thinking of it in those different terms. If you've written the song as a song, what could be played in any style, well, in any kind of like guitar accompaniment or whatever, and then you're arranging it with your particular bag of tricks that involves these different things.
Yeah, it's good. It frees you up though. So, sometimes you might think all my songs are just C, G, and D, and E minor, and A minor, or whatever. But it frees you up away from that, because you can just write a riff or a bass line that goes with your song, and then learn how to play the riff with the song. You don't have to be doing fancy, crazy guitar playing, but it's the difference between a song that's got like a hook on the guitar, that's got something really interesting musically on the guitar. And the hooks are really important, because if you've got something that's repeating on the guitar, then it provides like there's different levels of consciousness that listen to music, and there's one that's underneath that just wants to be walking along or dancing along or whatever, while your brain is engaged with the lyrics or the melody or the singer or whatever. But underneath, your brain wants to be just guided along with momentum, and the riff gives you that way more than chords do. So really recommend people having a go at writing little riffs and chords and little melodies that they play on the guitar while they're singing, rather than just strumming or, you know.
Yeah, that's great, John. Yeah, thank you very much. Let's move into section 2 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests for a songwriting tip. So we've had plenty of tips.
So many. We've gone on so much. I'll keep this raw, succinct.
What would your tip be for us, John?
Well, because I've been so specific with lots of other stuff, I can be vague now. So, I always tell people as musicians to be yourself, which sounds very vague, but it's really important that you do that you remain authentic to your own personality and your own values and your own just way of being. And the more you do it, I think the more interesting your music will be. So, for example, if you are somebody who doesn't like to perform in front of other people and you're worried about playing your songs in front of other people, one of the key worries people have is worrying about appearing shy and worrying about appearing like they're not confident. But it's like, if you're not confident, don't be confident. Be nervous and shy. And as soon as you show that nervousness and shyness to other people, it'll feel way, way easier, because, you know, they're going to empathize with you, not through choice. You know, they might not want to feel nervous themselves, but they will. And you'll make them feel nervous, but that's not a bad thing, because as you play and as you start to perform, that nervousness will go away, at least for your audience. And it might then go away for you as well, but it'll at least go away for the audience, and they'll have a positive emotional experience from your performance. As soon as they realize the spotlight's not on them, then it goes away for them, you know. But I love that moment when you get on stage. When I get on stage, people might not all get on an actual stage, but I get on stage and there's a tension, and I love that moment. I also hate it, it's scary, but that fear filling the room, that tension, that anticipation, I absolutely love it, because as it dissipates, as soon as you start to play, it's like a warm blanket being thrown over the whole room. Sometimes it lands on me as well. It depends what mood I'm in, and that's great. So yeah, just being yourself is vitally important, and you'll be original straight away, because people think being original is being novel, doing something new, but it isn't really. Originality is being unique, and everybody is unique, but not everybody's music is unique, and that's because they haven't found the essence of themselves inside it. And I'm still trying to do that. It's not like I've done that, but the more you can be yourself and figure out exactly what you have to say or need to say, it'll be different from anything anybody else has ever said, and that's what originality is. So
yeah, I think it's great advice, John. I think it's something that comes up a lot in some of the work that I've done when I've been writing songs with people, and say, oh, what's this song, what can it be about? Or like, if we're writing a rock song, oh, that means it has to be about this, or and it's like, people think that there's guidelines, and I mean, there is guidelines if you want to follow them, but you can write a rock song about anything. You can write a rock song that's mixed with this song. You can,
and please do. Please don't write about those obvious stereotype things that you think a rock song is going to be about, because a lot of people do that, and there's enough of them in the world. We don't need any more.
Yeah. And I think you're right in acknowledging that it's not an easy thing either. Like, it's because it's that kind of advice someone to be themselves, and people think, oh, I should just be able to be myself. But
no, it's so hard.
I've actually read a book recently which was called Becoming Myself. It was a psychologist's memoir, but I thought that was an interesting title, of Becoming Myself, and that you takes time to realize what it is you're interested in, what you're motivated by, how you express yourself on stage, what kind of musical influences you like to take. And I read a book about a Leonard Cohen biography recently. I think it was around I'm Your Man when that came out, the album, and someone said it feels like Leonard Cohen has really become Leonard Cohen now. And it was like, and I think they kind of meant it by like, there'd been hints of certain things. I mean, obviously he had many great albums before that as well, but like hints of what felt like it was really him, and that was where they all kind of came together in an album. But it's a long journey for everyone.
I bet he didn't feel like that. I bet
Probably
he did.
That,
Yeah, but it's interesting.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, it's a really good tip. Let's move into section 3 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. And what I do here is I put the link in the description. So if you're watching or listening to this at home, you want to go check out the song, you can follow that link, come back, we're going to have a little bit of chat about it. So what song did you choose for us, Jon?
Yeah, so there's a song by a band called White Moth Black Butterfly, which is called Tempest. And you know what? I don't know what the song was written about. I think it might be about the ending of a relationship. I'm not totally sure. But it came into my life at a particular time when, so my stepdad had recently died, and after a battle with cancer. And it's the guy who wrote the song sent it to me to ask me to come up with an arrangement for it, which I have since done. He's called Dan Tompkins, and he's most famous for being the singer in a metal band called Tesseract, but it's not a metal tune. And yeah, the song is kind of angry with its subject, and it's funny. I think that's a thing with bereavement. Sometimes maybe it's just been my circumstances or my life, but sometimes there is like anger with the person who's died, because it can be for any reason. It could be the circumstances. It could be they could be somehow, you know, have some responsibility in what happened, or they could just be things that were unsaid that you wish had been said. It could be by either them or by you, and that's what the song kind of seems to deal with for me. So it's like saying goodbye. It's about wishing that, I mean, you know, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in like a life after death in any kind of heaven way. So it's a strange thing to say, but there's an element of the song. It's like, I wish that I could go with you and, you know, kind of look after you and, you know, be there with you. But then in the end, I think that's probably why the song resonates. You're alone in it. So in what you experience in terms of grief, that's, you know, that's it's something which is quite isolating, and the song really captures that. Unfortunately, it's not one of those songs which is kind of going to make you feel better, except in that you'll feel empathized with, perhaps, but it's not a positive song with a happy ending. You know, you know what I mean? It's not about getting over something, really. It's more about the experience of going through it for me. But it's it's a really beautiful song anyway.
It's really beautiful, really powerful. And I think you're right. There are those songs, a lot of time people want the songs that kind of like, you know, it's going to be all right and this is fine. But a lot of time when you're in difficult situations like that, you don't want that. You don't want a song that's like, because if you're not anywhere near that, then hearing a song that says, oh yeah, it's going to be all right, then you're like, it's not. So you kind of want someone.
I'm somebody who's been permanently like, you know, going through different mental health stuff since I was a kid, and the number of times people have told me to cheer up, just complete strangers in the street have told me to cheer up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as if that ever helps. It doesn't help. You know?
Yeah.
You don't do that.
Yeah, and I think because you know, lots of music people think of it as miserable music. It's actually like, so that's again, Leonard Cohen gets that. A lot of people think a lot of his music is very miserable, but a lot of the time it's like when you're in this. I mean, I've bad depression episodes myself, and when I'm in that state, like some people say, listen to some happy music, it'll cheer you up. And sometimes it does, but most of the time I want to listen to something like a really dark Leonard Cohen album, or something like where it feels like, yeah, you don't feel as alone because you feel like someone else understands your situation and someone else has been through it and made something beautiful out of it. That's what I think always gets me. It's like, this person understands where I'm at now, but they've clearly got through it and they've done something beautiful out of it and given that as a gift to other people.
Yeah. No, it's really tough. I mean, I've had musician friends who've died, and then you're left with their music. And I've actually recorded a song recently by a friend of mine who died 2 years ago. And it's everything that you hear by them then takes on this entirely new meaning, and it's really, music's very, very strange. it communicates in ways that are so personal, and you know, just so dependent on your relationship with, like, it can be dependent on your relationship with the musician, even if you don't know them. It's like you can build up like a personality of them in your mind. You know, that's why people get so upset that, you know, Morrissey seems to be like a bit of a racist now, and we're still listening to his music, and it's like, it's really hard to, it shouldn't be, rationally it shouldn't make any difference. He's not the same person now that he was when he wrote, you know, Smith's songs and he was singing those songs. But people get so upset by it, and it's like, it's really the bond that you form with somebody who's singing, even if you don't know them and even if you never see them again. It could be a busker in the street. If you stand and actually watch them sing, the bond that you form with them, you form an opinion about their personality, which might be a stronger opinion than you have about somebody that you've known for years. There's something about singing and playing music, and yeah, it lends it an enormous power to affect you, you know.
And I think that really ties to your point before about being yourself. I think when artists do that and they to really express themselves, that's what really creates that deep bond with them. And a lot of the time, it's, you know, songs kind of like, you know, when you go back and listen to them more, when you know something more about someone, like, you can see more hints of it, if that makes sense, you know, like. And I think that's where, if someone's writing songs for a particular purpose, what they think something should be, you can kind of spot that a lot of the time as well. They're trying to write a song that's like this one. But when someone's being themselves and writing something, even if it's, and it kind of links to what we were talking at the start, if the song's kind of vague, maybe then sometimes you find something else out about them and you're like, oh, that's probably what that meant about. Yeah. Like with mental health stuff, sometimes you hear, you know, nice songs, then all of a sudden you find out that they've actually been suffering with mental health problems for a long time. Then you listen to the previous songs, you're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
You kind of understand why that's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Absolutely, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, well, there was something else I was going to ask you, I'm sure, but I can't remember what it was now. Oh, yeah, the arrangement for that song, is that something that's released, or for the...
No, yeah, it'll be on my, it'll be on my album, which is out on October the 16th.
October the 16th.
The album coming out, called The Faintest Idea, and yeah, it'll be out then. So yeah, my arrangement of Tempest will be on there. So yeah, it's okay. I certainly, it's the first time to be honest, it's something that people have said to me about my songs, that it's helped them through a particular thing that happened. But I've never had that experience before. I don't know why. I've had music help me in general, but I've not ever associated a particular song with a particular event in my life. I've just never done it until, like, a few years ago, my stepdad died. I think it's because the guy sent me the song and asked me to work on it, so I got inside it in a way that I couldn't help doing. And yeah, it really, everything then became about, the song then became about what was happening in my life in a way that I've never, I don't know if I've never allowed a song or never forced a song to do that before. So yeah, it's yeah, it was good. It was beneficial. I don't know why I've not done that before.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's interesting, isn't it? And then it's like, once that bond's formed with a song, how long it lasts for sometimes. Like, it might be that you hear that song again in 10 years and it just, yeah, it's always kind of resonates with a particular experience for you.
Well, for me, when I write songs, it's always like that. So every time I write a song, it's about something that's probably quite particular to even if it's not an exact event, it'll be to a time and something that's going on. So all my songs take me back there, which means that when I do gigs, it can be really hard, really, really hard. Yeah. But, you know, I've had experiences where actually when my stepdad was battling with cancer, and then I was on stage in Germany, and that something else had happened with my best friend, and there was another thing had happened as well. So there's various kind of awful things going on in my life, and I was on stage and I was a complete wreck. Absolutely, just I didn't think I could play properly. It was awful, and the experience was awful. I was so anxious and so depressed on stage. And it's the single, I think I've never known an audience. I mean, I get emotional responses from audiences, but this was the biggest ever. It was unbelievable. And honestly, I came away from that like not really knowing. It's over time. I've now realized that okay, you can just let things out. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be worried about, like I said before, about being shy or being down or sad. People kind of want that. Actually, at the time, I came away from it kind of angry. Like it's like, what is this? People want blood. It's like the Christians and the lions. The Romans just want to watch somebody ripped apart by a lion. Is that what it is? Is that what performing music is? People want to see somebody in real pain. It's don't want to do that. But I don't think it is quite that. It's not quite like that. That's what I came away from it thinking at the time. But over time, I think I've just realized that people just want to be able to empathize and see their own pain written in something else. And anyway,
it's always something I always think with, like, I want to see what feels like a unique performance. It's not just the artist does this every night. It's exactly the same every night. Yeah. It's like they've shown up tonight. Yeah, if they're not feeling so good or they're feeling particularly in a different mood, and then they're the things that are like when you talk about a gig, like remember that gig when we saw so and so, and they were like this, and it's just that they will make it feel like this is a unique night I'm seeing now. This isn't just the same as watching the DVD of the performance they do every night. This is the artist is here live now with us now.
And, I don't go to stadium type gigs or big arena gigs. I just don't go to them.
Yeah,
I've no interest in going to them, and it's just because the place is so big. You can't have that experience. You can't possibly. And also the musicians not having that experience. They're not. I've sat for years. I knew the general manager at the MEN Arena in Manchester, and I used to get basically front 2 or 3 row seats to gigs. And I've seen artists perform, so they're playing to 100,000 people, but I'm like 10 feet away from them, and they don't perform the way that you would perform to a small room. Nothing like that. That emotional connection isn't there in the same way, because they can only connect with the people en masse. And I'm not saying they're going through the motions, but it isn't the same. Anyway,
definitely. Well, thanks a lot for your time, John. I really appreciate it. Really nice talking to you.
It's been great. Thanks. It's been great. I've come away with things to think about myself as well. So
well, that's always good. And I'll tag your pages and website and stuff in the description so people can check out stuff if they're not already familiar with you, and look forward to hearing the new album when it comes out.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, John. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.